Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
The Interlagos circuit was brought in 1926 for houses originally, but the 1929 market crash meant a circuit was built back in 1940. Improvements along the way have made this Interlagos circuit a favourite with many, and started by hosting the Brazilian Grand Prix in 1977, 79, 80, and then has been on the calendar ever since 1990. It's hosted many championship finales after starting at the front of the calendar. It moved to the back, and it's hosted some great finales like 2005, 2007, and the Glock moment of 2008. But tonight we have the final round of our GT trophy, where our champions will be crowned in the pro category, Pro-Am, and the amateur category. Nobody is safe just yet. Thank you for joining us tonight in the commentary box. It's myself, David Whitehouse, and Sebastian Boscher-Williams. And on productions, we have Jamie Fluke. As you can see, the cloud cover is over here at Interlagos. And Sebastian, what are you sort of expecting from tonight?
Good evening. Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm expecting absolute chaos, I think, is the only way I can describe it. We're going to have such an interesting race, of course. We're in the GT3 class. The track temperature, as you can see there, 91 degrees Fahrenheit, around 30 or 20-ish degrees Celsius. So that's going to mean it's pretty hard to drive these cars, and the wind is really high as well. So expect lots of drivers struggling with the wind, like we saw only at the weekend in the Formula One. So I think it's going to be a crazy race. I think, you know, we've got the strategy as we see all of the drivers head out for their qualifying laps. I always say it with these races, it's always one just to stick around to the very end, because you just don't know what's going to happen, do you, David?
No, we've seen that with a number of races this year, where it's been sort of toss-turning results until Thomas Cope decided to break his foot, and then he's won 3 on the trot. I think Tommy Muldjord is in a similar vein of form in terms of top threes. Here is the pro category championship standings. We have Thomas Cope leading on 4.95. 4.54 for Tom Valentini. He really needs a good result and a slip up for Thomas Cope to take this title. Lucas Lang, ever consistent, but still hasn't claimed that race victory, back in 3rd place. Kieran Smart has had a brilliant season in 4th on 3.99, and then it spreads out with Matthias Beer, Christoph Herbenau, who joined late in the season but has shown tremendous pace, Tim Spesser, Tom McKell, and then Kayabao and Nikamp, who haven't done all of the rounds. And we'll also move on to our Pro-Am category, where Stuart Winness, the Scotsman for Track Scotland, has a 288 points in the bank, ahead of Roland Sharton of 259. It's quite a similar position to the pro category, but more drivers in it, so more to go wrong for Stuart. He just needs a clean race here tonight. 2 points covering Shartner and James Hall for 2nd place. Arthur Hoop-Kamerl not far behind either. He's just 5 points back from 3rd. So that's sort of a battle we're expecting to see in the Pro-Am category here tonight. And in the Am category, so far it has been a season for Tom Bingham to show his form out in front, but only a 37-point lead after a couple of mistakes for Tom in that wild rear-end McLaren that we've seen spitting fire all year. David Gill has managed to get a point lead over Eden Frisner, who has to start from a pit lane here tonight, so just makes Frisner's deal a little bit harder, and he is 5 points clear of Paul Colashaw, who we've seen have tremendous pace all year, and Alex Fields only 3 points further back, so a brilliant battle there for 2nd place in the Am category. And our very own Andy Thompson there in 8th place, looking to try and push forward in his championship, maybe catch Patrick Eimer or Stefan Anderson if they have poor results here tonight. So the guys are out on their qualifying laps, and it's something you really need to build into in qualifying, isn't it, Sebastian?
Certainly is, especially around Interlagos, with the track limits are also close to the track. I mean, you know, turns 4 and 5 even, Decina del Lago, are so easy just to run wide and pick up an off track, and that of course invalidates your lap. So you're right, you've really got to build up your laps, and you know, we've got a 10-minute session here, so you could really sort of rest on your laurels a little bit and wait until the final lap to deliver the 100% lap that you might be thinking about, as we see Tom Valentini taking the very interesting line around the final few corners. And maybe he's just trying to get a little bit of a better run. I'm not sure if that's allowed, you know, some leagues are a little bit, yeah, not a fan of those sort of techniques, but Tom Valentini just about to start his flying lap, heading down towards turn 1. The center S is now braking just before the 50-meter board. Hit the apex nice and early, take up all the curb you can think of, cut across to the left, to the right-hand side, and then we go through turn number 3, Curva del Sol, onto the Retoroposta. Use as much curb as you dare on exit before you run wide onto the grass. Now down towards Casino del Lago now. This is where it's so easy to pick up an off-track, brake so late and so close to the grass he was, and that all looks fairly good through there. Now up onto the run towards turn 6, Ferradura, one of the trickiest places on the track. He brakes very nicely and just sort of allows the car and just waits for the front end to grip up as we head through turn 6. Now into turn 8, everything looking good. Into turn 9, try and use all the curb you can on the left-hand side, and then just let the steering open up. We head down towards turn number 10. And it's all looking really good through here. Now they're sort of almost flat out turn 11. And he keeps it nice and flat to the braking zone of Junshao, turn number 12. Brake as late as you dare, get it towards the apex, and then just plant the throttle. And that looks like a very good lap from Tom Valentini, and he needs a good race today. Number 22 car heading up now towards the start-finish line, and watch how close that all the drivers are going to get to this pit entry wall. Actually, he gives it quite a wide margin. You know, we used to see, David, in Formula 1, they used to almost sort of collide with it every lap because they were trying to get the advantage, but Valentini deciding not to take that route as he goes P6, but only 2 tenths off the leader. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's super close in this qualifying session, and something that the drivers need to take into account here, this is one of our reverse grid races, so we are looking at the top 10 reverse grid. So it's really hard to try and aim for that 10th place, but obviously that's the best place you could probably be. But then into account the top 15 in qualifying before they are reversed get points, so that could be crucial for anybody's championship.
It really could be, and I think if you're a driver that's out there, you'll be wanting to get as many points as you can in qualifying, and hoping that that pace translates to the race itself. Tom Bingham, even our lead amateur driver in that, as you said, that McLaren, it's known for its flames, as it does exactly that by spitting out a load of flames, and it's always nice to see the McLaren out on circuit, improved by the recent update. Has made it almost a viable candidate. It used to be known as a very deadly car, and I remember doing some Nordschleife races years ago, and yeah, certainly didn't see the end of that one, as we just see. So yeah, sorry David.
No, that's all right. Yeah, it's a violent little car when it wants to be, but Tom Bingham and Andy Thompson have been driving it this year. The only 2 McLarens on the grid, and they've done a great job of keeping it in relatively in a straight line.
Yeah, certainly have. I mean, we saw how much of an advantage Bingham has at the top of the AM standings, and just goes to show, that he's really found a way to use this car's, disadvantages, some would say, to his advantage. So we see Andy Thompson moving up now to P number 20, 1.8 seconds off Kieran Smart, who is our current provisional pole sitter. There's a Lamborghini once again going very wide, trying to get the advantage, and that's, I think, distracted Kieran Smart. Flash of the lights there coming out of Zheng Zhao, and he is not happy whatsoever. And this is Thomas Cope. And yeah, I mean, as you were saying, David, in the pre-show even, that that he's had 3 wins on the trot. We have to go back to round 5 to find a race where Thomas Cope didn't win the race. I mean, it's absolutely incredible dominance by him, and of course doing it all while having a broken foot.
Yeah, he's driven absolutely brilliantly, and we sort of joked that he should probably try and break it again for the final round, but maybe it's fixed itself, because he's only down in 4th at the moment, 1.135 off pole. Now, going back to that incident we just saw coming onto the final corner, I think there may be some questions about that back after the race, because if you're going out wide to get a run onto the corner, that's all fine, but you cannot come back on and scupper somebody else's lap, which I think Kieran Smart had as he has headed to the pits, and Matthias Beer has, who has shown, the German's shown tremendous pace in that Ferrari, especially in the second half of this year. Looking further down, Stuart Winness, who's leading the Pro-Am category, out in front in Pro-Ams, so he'll be happy to have a few cars between him and Regenwetter, and one of them cars is Tom Valentini, who really needs to pick up the pace for his championship challenge. In AMS, we have Tom Bingham, who is looking to secure his championship. Cowlishaw and Gill all together on the grid ahead of a flurry of, I think there's 4 Pro-Am cars in there, so it's really interesting of a mixed up grid where we're not seeing the usual split in terms of the classes.
Yeah, we certainly aren't. And yeah, it just goes to show how difficult this track is. It's such a driver's track, and you know, it's almost just dependent on whether you as a driver feel confident enough to push, and it can really, really help if that happens. As that's the end of the qualifying session. And just before we look at the grid, just to note that Thomas Cope was on an absolute flyer, but then made a mistake. So he was looking for the pole position, but made a mistake on his final attempt.
Yeah, so here we are with the grid, and in pole position, because of a reverse top 10, is the Pro-Am driver Rene Hugenhout. Christian Regenwetter joins him on the front row, so we have an all Pro-Am front row. Christian Herbino and Tom Valentini line up 3rd and 4th. Maybe, yes, the points lost in qualifying might be just enough for Tom Valentini to turn it around in the race. Stuart Winness looking for a clean start in 5th for Track Scotland. Tom McKell in 6th. Thomas Cope just got to keep his nose clean to try take this pro title after 3 wins on the trot in 7th for Olympus Esports, and Lucas Lang in 8th. Tyus Beer in 9th, and our fastest driver from qualifying, Kieran Smart, who lines up 10th. 11th is Tommy Muljord, the privateer driver in the Pro-Am category, and then first of our AMs, which is Tom Bingham in that fire-breathing McLaren. 13th is Paul Cowlishaw, ahead of David Gill in 14th, Arthur Hoop Kamel in 15th, Patrick Eimer 16th, Hendrik Lang, the German, in 17th, just ahead of Christian Engelhardt and Roland Schartner, who is going to have to gain a lot of places to catch up with Stuart Winness, who started from 5th. Mads Sør in 20th. 21st is our very own Andy Thompson. We're proud of your performance, Andy. We said it to you before the broadcast. It's better than I did when I did the AM category. 22nd is Tim Spesser, the pro driver, not getting that Audi going around this Interlagos circuit. 23rd for Adam Morrison, 24th for Alex Fields, and I think just Colin Sanson on the back of the grid, because we have Daniel Merchant, James Hall, Eden Frisner and Stefan Anderson all with pit lane starts, so they're going to have to really fight through. But it is kind of an advantage at Interlagos to keep yourself out of trouble on the opening lap.
Certainly is, and yeah, we're actually having that exact discussion with Andy Thompson, and yeah, I tend to agree. You know, obviously it would be better to be able to, you know, to actually show your true pace in qualifying, but the advantage of just sort of having, you go, because the pit lane, you skips turns 1, 2 and 3 and sort of rejoin the track on the midway point of the retroposter, you can avoid all of the carnage that might ensue, and if there's a multi-car pileup, you know, you'll be looking absolutely golden as you just sort of drive past them. So yeah, I think if there's any track that you'd want to take a pit lane penalty, I think Interlagos would be one of them, as we see Rene Hugenhout here, and this is his main opportunity, and it's quite difficult to actually start a race here. It's such a long run down to turn 1. You really have to, you know, be really on it with when you start to apply that throttle and when you decide as the pole sitter to get the race underway. So Rennie, I'm sure, would have been, I think every driver here would have been sort of at least had an idea in their head of how they want to start the race. As it is a reverse grid race, there's always a possibility that you might end up starting on the pole. So yeah, it's going to be such a good race around here. I've got an absolutely huge smile on my face. I cannot wait to get this one underway.
There are 2 Ferraris are on the front row here. Teammates in the Pro-Am category. Hugenhout and Regenwetter. Christoph Herbino looking to take full advantage early on to get past these 2 and try and pull away at the front. He is the fuel master. Always goes that lap longer as our Porsche iRacing safety car heads to pit lane. They bring it up to a flag, and he's looks like Regenwetter and Hugenhout have gone, or no, Hugenhout's decided to keep it at a steady pace. Regenwetter a bit further back and trying to get the jump. Hugenhout, they've gone, and it's complete chaos as Stuart Winness comes straight through the middle, and It's going to be 3 wide down into the centre S, and Stuart Winness leads, and he's just got ahead of that Ferrari. That start did not work for the team out in front, so it's Stuart Winness from Hugenhout, Herbino, Matthias Beer, Thomas Cope has got through okay, Valentini, Lang and Smarts, that is the top 8 as they head down towards turn 4, and they're 2 wide further back in the pack as the front 4 continue to just drive away, but Stuart Winness getting the perfect start he needs for his Pro-Am title battle.
Certainly is, and the driver we're seeing at the moment, Paul Collishaw, has had an absolutely mega start in the AM category, up 3 places from where he started, but 2 places within the AM category alone, so a great start to the race. And yeah, it looked like Rennie Hugenhout there just didn't quite get the start that he would have wanted. I think Stuart Winness really on it and knew that once the green flag flew, you know, it doesn't matter what the leader's doing ahead of you. Once the green flag flies, you can race as much as you want. So Stuart really switched on and took the advantage. And yeah, and I think the other Ferrari driver at the top also got caught out as well. And it just goes to show how crucial these starts are, as it's given Stuart Winness an absolutely mega start to this race. But now here comes the first real challenge of his leadership, coming up the hill towards turn 1. And Rennie will be looking to get that P1 back. It's so tempting to dive up the inside into the centre S's, and let's see what's going to happen as we cross the line to start lap number 2.
Yeah, Stuart Winness leads for the first time outright in the season that I can think of. I'm going to say that. Hugenhout in second, Herbino third. The lead of our pro category, Regenwetter from the front row down to 11th. Not a good start by Regenwetter. I think he tried to judge it, but he could jump his teammate, and his teammate actually outdid him in terms of when he was going to go. As we could just see behind that, Hope Kamerl and Tom McKell, who lost 7 places in the same stable. So actually, Regenhout's start has actually cost his 2 teammates 16 positions overall. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, just yeah, not sure if that was like a planned team strategy that went wrong, because it did look like that Regenwetter was sort of like anticipating when Hugenhout was going to make the jump, and whether Hugenhout did go for the team strategy or what, I'm not sure. But yeah, it certainly has cost his teammates. As we have a look, they are all diving for position. This is Christoph Herbenow even getting past the Ferrari, so he is up to 2nd place overall, and our lead pro driver, and he's going to be looking at Stuart Winness and taking the overall race lead. We head through Jean Shao up the hill, and let's into Ferrari battles. That's, can't quite see the number, that's Matthias Beer trying to get past Hugenhout. So Hugenhout started this lap in 2nd, down to 4th. And looks like Thomas Cope and Valentini are also looking to get past him. Absolutely shocker of a lap for Hugenhout. Yeah, I think this is exactly what Hugenhout probably just expected from starting from front row. Get through the first couple of laps and then start. If people are going to dive at you, let them go, because they're not your battle. It is a battle of the pro drivers coming through to get to the front of this field as quickly as they can. But Stuart Winness still leading the way and holding a good 7/10 of a second lead over Christoph Herbenow. And in terms of the pit stops that we see later on in the race, which it's very early to start talking about, the drivers normally try and come in from 24 minutes onwards. We've seen them getting later and later, but Christoph Herbenow is the driver who always gets that extra lap or 2 of fuel out. So it'll be interesting to see whether Belgium can come out with the same strategy. But the Scot is not cracking under pressure at this moment in time.
He certainly isn't. Somebody who might be is Tom Bingham. He's down in 20th position, of course, started this race from the lead of his category there and battling the 146 Lamborghinis. We head through turns number 9 up towards turn 10, and Bingham's kept that position. That's Engelhardt behind him, trying to pressure him into a mistake in the break-ins over turn 10. Looks like Bingham sort of regained his composure. He was very offline when the camera sort of just cut to him. But yeah, Tom Bingham not doing exactly what we'd have expected him to do in that McLaren. And this is Paul Collishaw, your AM leader, actually on the back of a few Pro-Ams, and he is looking absolutely rapid so far. Is he thinking of a move into turn 1? Looks a little bit too far back, but you never underestimate any of these drivers. Super talented, and all are up for quite a superb overtake. Nothing happens there though. Through turns 1, 2 and 3 we go, but now here comes the run down the Retroposta into Decino del Lago. can Paul do anything? And I think once again he's a little bit too far back, but what one can hope, David.
Yeah, Paul has also had the pace all year, but just mistakes or bad luck has really cost him as he runs quite wide there. Before everybody starts screaming at us, track limits, when they come down to Chunkao and they go across the grasscrete on the right-hand side to open up the corner, iRacing allows it, so you do it. But now, look at this. Stuart Winness has a train of pro category drivers behind him. Herbino, Beer, Cope, Valentini, Lang, Smart. It's going to be interesting to see how it all... A little look there by Herbino, who just needs to be a little bit patient. Stuart Winness. It's going to be interesting to see whether he wants to just let them all go by and just win his class, or whether he's really here for the fight overall.
Yeah, it looks like actually on the exit, Herbino very wide. That's going to allow Bear to come through on the inside as we head up towards the end of the lap. And I think Herbino will be ruining that mistake. And I think he was put offline even from the start of that section, because he sort of went for that little dive, didn't he? Down towards turn 10, and that's just put him offline. He's now having to defend, and that's round the outside. Thomas Cope is thinking of going there, side-by-side contact, I think, there. Thomas Cope still remains in fourth, Herbino in third, but Beer looking absolutely in the pouncy at the moment, in second place, half a second away from Winness in the lead as we head down towards turns number 4 and 5, and it's side by side again. Thomas Cope now coming under pressure from Valentini. They're going to be side by side as we head through turns number 4 and 5. And can Valentini go the long way round the outside on the exit of turn 5? They're still side by side. Cope's going to close the door, but leaves just enough room. Very, very clean racing from the pair of them, and that's going to allow Valentini up the inside. So Valentini is now into 4th, Thomas Cope down to 5th, and crucially, well, they're scrapping away. Herbino, Bear and Winness all making a little bit of a break for it, and there's a spin and there's a crash.
Oh, the two championship rivals, have they come together, or was that just a spin by Valentini? If not, if it's a spin by Valentini, that is his championship gone in chance of catching Tom Cope, unless Tom Cope retires. But it'd be interesting to see maybe an on board from Tom Cope to see if there's contact there as we go to a replay and see if we can see what can happen. Cope turns in, and it looks like, yeah, Valentini just loses it himself, and Cope has no choice but to hit him round, and Lang goes off in sympathy as well. So Lucas Lang, so first, second and third in the championship, all involved in that, but it's first who gets away scot-free.
It certainly is, yeah. Oh, as Bear goes through on the inside, so that's your new race leader, Matthias Bear, up towards the front of the field. Yeah, Valentini just a little bit over optimistic under brakes there. I think probably rear tyres quite hot after making that move, as we see Winness there thinking about a move down the inside into Destino del Lago, but can't find a way through. Matthias Bear keeps the lead, and now Herbino looking ever threatening in the mirrors of Winness. That Lamborghini, very great looking car, but it's certainly menacing in the rear view mirrors. Winness now thinking about a move on the inside of the number 63, but can't do anything, and now I think he's going to have to go from attacking to defense, as Herbino is looking absolutely rapid behind him. And let's have a look at the replay of the lead, and I think this is going to be a fairly standard just sort of slipstream dive down to the inside, David.
Yeah, it's going to be a simple move by Matthias Beer. Stuart Winness knows it's coming and isn't going to fight too hard. He saw it coming, lets him go because he's not fighting that for championship position. He just needs to bring it home, but at the moment still on chance for a great top 3 overall for the way he is driving at this moment. Just further back in the pack, we've had Adam Morrison go off track at some point, and actually Tom Valentini I think's run wide as well again. So not the day for Valentini in the championship. Mads has jumped to the pits on a tow, so he possibly could be out of this race, and it does look like Stefan Andersson might be. Yeah, Stefan Andersson hasn't started this race, so the pit lane starter has not started and will score no points, which could be crucial for his championship, because we were speaking to Andy Thompson earlier and he said that, oh, Stefan's here, that's my chance is gone. And the chance that Stefan's still going to score 0 points, Andy Thompson needs a good result here, and he might just leapfrog the Andersson from Denmark.
Yeah, he's certainly got the best opportunity. Mershon behind him. One of our other pit lane starters is threatening that with a little bit of a look down to the inside and into turn number 4. Thompson, though, a little bit wide on the exit, and they're behind Lang, Lucas Lang, who has lost 9 positions from where he started. So wonder if he was involved in that little incident. It's down the inside, goes a 114 car. That's Mershon on Thompson, and Daniel Mershon takes that position. And he is up to 18th place, recovering after his pit lane start. And now he's got the wounded Porsche, as you can actually see there, David, like that Porsche up ahead, not looking as fresh as it probably could. And this is Thomas Cope as well, and that's a lot of damage to the rear of his car. Looks like the front splitter's got away, but the main damage that Cope has got even is from being rear-ended.
Yeah, I think that's the damage from Lucas Lang, so it'll be interesting to see how he copes with that. I did notice as well, Andy Thompson there slightly defending from his teammate Tom Bingham. Tom has been mega quick at McLaren all year, and Thompson may be just trying to get one over on his teammate, but he doesn't want to ruin his championship challenge for Tom Bingham. So I guess I would guess them two will probably swap over at some point on this next lap or two, especially with Eden Frisner right down the order. And not looking a good day for Eden, as Adam Morrison has been off the track, and I believe Alex Fields has crashed. Now Alex Fields in the Mercedes has had an issue, and he is a driver right in the AM category battle for that second, third place, so he is now out the race and towed to the pits. He will have a fast repair, but then he will have to try and get back out and up the order somehow.
Yeah, and of course, while you're in the pits getting repaired, even if it is a fast repair, everybody's racing around and sort of just continue on with their race, and it's so difficult to come back as we see that switch for 19th and 20th place, Bingham past Thompson, and you have to wonder if that was a little bit sort of orchestrated. Let's have a look. So this is what happens to Fields as we head down towards, and there's contact on the straight. Huge accident between the Mercedes and the BMW. And that's Alex's day well and truly over. And yeah, he'll be lucky to get that one out. Even with the fast repairer, that was a huge incident. Yeah,
that was a huge incident for Mercedes and for Adam Morrison in the Track Scotland BMW. Morrison not had any luck this year. I believe Daniel Merchant's been off the track as well at some point on his charge. With Hendrik Lang, so he's falling down the timing screen. So we'll just have to see what replays our producer Jamie can find. Here's Daniel Merchant as he comes into Juncal, and is it just going to be running wide and spin? It's just running off, and there is Hendrik Lang. So I would say he probably got distracted by Lang actually getting himself back round. Not that Lang was doing anything wrong, but it just gave Merchant something else to have a look at.
Yeah, certainly did. Two drivers making the same mistake at the same corner, quite unusual, but yeah, do think there's a little bit of distraction at play there. I mean, if anybody's ever driven in a race and a driver ahead of them has made a mistake, it's so easy just to make the same mistake and end off, if the driver ahead locks up or spins. It's almost like you naturally just try and do that. It's a very weird thing, and, as racing drivers, you have to be super aware of that. As we see Wegenwetter, our second place man behind his teammate at the moment. They're in a Ferrari train. 4 Ferraris line off. Stern's their 7th place down to P10. And that is in the background. The orange Ferrari is your AM leader. Paul Collishaw still in the lead of the AM. And Bingham, albeit is starting to recover his pace, but he's about 10 seconds net off the lead of the AM category. So Paul Collishaw in the driver's seat at the moment. Is he going to think of a move on Wegenwetter, or is he just thinking of the long game, thinking, I've got the best position I can get conceivably, I'm in the lead of my respective class, am I going to stay there, or does he want a little bit more glory? Valentini also making moves up the field. I think that was a move into turn 1. He's on the exit of turn 3, so yeah, I think he's made a move on the number 120 car. That's Roland Schnatter there. And Valentini starting his recovery drive, but that Lamborghini does not look especially fresh. A little bit of damage to the front end and a little bit of damage to the rear end. So that little moment for Valentini has really cost him, not only with the time loss, but the ongoing time loss with the damage, as that's the Lord there. Shaw's really getting very wide on the on the turn 6-7 complex.
Yeah, the two Lamborghinis leading the herd of Ferraris, we decided to call it a while back, when we found every Ferrari near the back of the field. Now they're much further forward, and actually it's a Ferrari leading this race of Matthias Beer, still leading by 0.7 of a second from Stuart Wyness, with the Lamborghini of Herbino just sitting and watching, probably saving a little bit of fuel. But this Ferrari battle, it's great to see the Ferraris on form and free from the same stable here in Hugenhout, Mikel and Regenwetter, and Regenwetter has certainly, and Hugenhout in a way, have regained their composure since the opening lap.
Yeah, they certainly have. I was just about to make that point, but it seems like they've stayed the course, and whatever it is, we actually see Hugenhout there battling up ahead, tries to make a move into turn 1. That's sort of a half-hearted move. Thankfully he backs out of it, and as we go through, a little bit wide though on the exit of turn 2, having to put in a lot of correction, and that's going to allow his teammate behind to try and get past him as we head down towards turns number 4 and 5. And he's going to make a move to the inside, and that's Markel through on Hugenhout. That's a switch for positions. Oh, but Markel a little bit wide on the exit. That might allow Hugenhout back, and we're going to see another 2x2 into turns 6 and 7. No, they think better of it. And all while this is all happening, and while these Ferraris are sorting themselves out, Coley Shaw is just gaining a little bit closer, and we might be seeing him in a few laps' time starting to make those moves.
Yeah, these three drivers trying not to run into each other as they are all from the same stable, not exactly the same team. They're sandwiching the one Ferrari of Hugenhout right now, but the thing is, yes, you don't want to run into your teammates, but you don't want to lose time, and that's where Mikel has jumped ahead of them and now is pushing forward towards Muljoord and Cope, who seems to be just keeping it clean at the moment. As we go back to the front three, as Herbino is now right up behind Wyness. He's seen Beer pulling out a little bit of a gap, but not going for a move. He's still trying to save that little bit of fuel behind the rear of that BMW. And out of all the cars, if you haven't got a Bentley Continental on the circuit, the BMW is not a bad car to try and slipstream behind, as Herbino now will get a run down to turn 4. Will he try and make the move here? He has a look, but it was unsure, and Stuart Wyness is trying to say, go for it, and just get out of my way. I don't want anything to do with your battle in the pro category. And not far behind is Kieran Smart. He's managed to pull away from Muljoord and that Ferrari battle. There's flash of lights there by Stuart Wyness, which I think is just saying, just get on with it. We don't want to be battling. Let's just keep moving forward. I'm not going to fight. As we now look at Tommy Muljoord, who's having a look at Thomas Cope down into the centre S. A lovely textbook overtaking move down into the centre S. Yeah,
absolutely superb move. I didn't even think he was going to make the move, and I knew that from our producer. So yeah, very surprised, and would have surprised at Thomas Cope. And I think Cope is picking up a little bit of damage. We're on board now with Tom Mikel. This is still a replay, so I think we're going to see Tom dive up the inside as well. A little bit of help there from Cope himself, just realizing that his car is not up to much after that damage we saw earlier on in the race. So yeah, I'm very surprised actually that we you know, Herbino was still behind Wyness, so Wyness really had the pace, as we see once again more drivers racing up the hill. That's some Ferrari on a Lamborghini action, and if we miss that, we're going to see almost the exact same. The Ferrari dives to the inside, almost hits the pit wall. That's how close he was, and Thomas Cope dropping down the field. And I wonder, you know, we're about 20 or 19 minutes even into this race. Are we going to see Thomas Cope come into the pit soon and take that fast repair and just sort of, you know, go long and just try and get rid of this damage that he's got, because it's clearly affecting his pace at the moment?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's trying to do, and I think the same for Valentini and Lang. They're just trying to get through to a pit stop window, but you saw how much space Thomas Cope gave the cars coming through on the straight, and he's trying to do the same there, just trying to keep his pace up, but not getting in the way of these, because all he needs is to finish, really. He has such a lead in the championship. Valentini's behind him, Lang's behind him. 4th place in the championship is Kieran Smart, who's only 2 places ahead of him. He doesn't need to get involved in battles. He can actually drive. This is what we saw quite often in championship finales, where drivers just need to finish or just need to score a point, and then they get involved in little incidents that are not always their fault, but they get they seem to have the hardest race of the season they've ever had when they're cruising to the title. And we've seen it with Schumacher a number of times. We've seen it with so many other drivers. You hardly ever see the champion go out with a win.
Yeah, you do. I was reminded of Sebastian Vettel here at this very track, I think in 2013 or 2012, the year eludes me at the moment. Yeah, he had a difficult race, and yeah, Thomas Cope just needs to survive, and I think it'll be a few more laps until we'll see him pulling into the pits and repairing that damage. But yeah, he's got such a lead in the championship that as long as he finishes, I think he should be good. This is Hooper Merkel down the inside of the Audi. Sorry, that's Valentini down the inside of Hooper Merkel. So they switch places. Of course, the Audi and the Lamborghini, fairly similar bases, but the Lamborghini just that little bit newer. Yeah, one of the only Audis. We don't see too many Audis. I think I can see 3 out on track. So yeah, always nice to see different cars being represented. That's what I love about the GT3. So you get so many different sort of styles and shapes of cars. I mean, it's not like, you know, if anybody's sort of done the Le Mans races recently, but it's mainly just Porsches. So it's so nice to see so many different cars and car styles.
Yeah, we have so many. There's not many GTs that aren't out on this field at some point this season, but there's one thing I've just noticed. That move for Tom Valentini now puts him on the tail of Thomas Cope. Now, will Thomas Cope decide that's one driver who he isn't going to just let drive past him? Because obviously he's struggling with the power deficit down the straight from the aero, but is Valentini the one driver he's going to go, no, if I'm going to the back of the field, you're coming with me in a clean way, but I'm going to defend against you and not everybody else?
I think quite possibly. I mean, Thomas Cope will be very aware that Valentini is his main championship rival. And yeah, you know, I mean, whether he has enough pace to defend, I think is another matter. You see, you know, even with him being in the slipstream, he's still losing time on the straights, and that's Gill ahead of him in the Audi. And you know, the Audi is a quick car in the straights, but not the quickest. So you know, the fact that Thomas Cope can't even stick with him sort of suggests how much damage he's currently carrying. So you know, I think Cope would want to defend from Valentini, but does he have enough pace? Only time will tell. I think he'll be very, very happy that he's got that Audi ahead of him to provide that slipstream, but is it going to be enough? And you know, Valentini just has so much more pace at the moment, so much more grip, so much more command of the car, and I wonder, are we going to see Thomas Cope just pull into the pits at the end of this lap?
He might try and make it go a lap or two longer just because of the fuel, but there is one thing I can say is if you want something that hasn't happened this season, take a picture of the timing screen. Thomas Cope is currently, due to damage, the slowest driver pretty much out there on the circuit. This is a collector's item to be able to fight Thomas Cope in the form he's been in lately. He's been dominant, he's been destructive to the field in terms of just leaving them for dead most of the time. I believe last time out he was setting a fastest lap at will when he felt like it, and that was when his foot was really in pain. Now it's, from what I know, it might be a little bit better. We'll talk to him after the race with that, but looking just further back, Lucas Lang is, and Thomas Cope does come in, so he is going to hopefully get the fuel to the end. He does have a spotter team in the Olympus Esports, so he comes into the pits, he'll take his fast repair, you'll see that bodywork just sort of replace itself in terms of iRacing, but it does mean that Thomas Cope now has to get through 36 minutes of racing without getting involved in any instance, because one hit could just put him out of this race now.
Certainly could. This is Tommy Morsjord down into turns number 1. What's going to happen to him? And that's a spin on the exit of turn 2. So easily done. The car bottoms out, and just, if you hit it in the wrong spot, you lose all grip, and you just see he's found his traction control off button, spins it around and rejoins the race. We see Thomas Cope rejoin the racetrack after his stop. Yeah, I was sort of expecting him to pull into the pits, just, you know, almost as an ego thing to, you know, he doesn't want to be passed by Valentini, so, you know, whether he can make it on fuel or not, he's like, well, I'm going to pit because I just don't want to end up being passed. But all of that's been going on, Matthias Baer has been doing an absolutely mega job. The gap is now up to 2.3 seconds in the lead. Winnes falling a little bit off the back of Herbenauer, and there is your top 3 all different car manufacturers as we head down towards turn 1. As we see, yeah, even so Herbenauer was actually on a pretty rapid lap that last lap. He set purple sectors in sector number 2, so really having the pace, but even so, Bear was a 10th quicker than Herbenauer, so Bear at the moment just has so much extra pace as we see Tom Bingham down into Zheng Xiao, and what's going to happen here? Understeers on exit, catches the grass, and around she goes. Nothing you could really do. And that's another mistake at Zheng Xiao, and he's going to get away with that one, but it's going to lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places as they're side by side. I think that was with his teammate and one of the Audi drivers.
Yes, it was, and Tom Valentini has pitted the lap after Thomas Cope, so it'll be interesting to see where Valentini comes out in comparison to Cope. Here he is leaving pit lane now, and there goes Thomas Cope, but Valentini does have the inside line, but it looks like Cope will be out ahead and with a bit of a gap, so that it's just going to be interesting to see whether Cope can coach that fuel tank to the end of this race, or actually he's in a championship position that means he doesn't have to make the end of the race. He could pit again and just fall down the field if he needs to and just take the fuel on. That's the safety of his championship position right now.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you know, it's crucial that Valentini's gone for that extra lap, so you know, if Cope is a little bit tight on fuel, Valentini certainly wouldn't be. So yeah, this race is certainly one to watch and keep your eye on as the race progresses. Thomas Cope there getting past one of the pit lane starters of Friedsner. Very easy move. I don't think the Ferrari driver was making it too hard, as he knows that Thomas Cope is quicker. Certainly now not having any of that damage that was dragging him down only a few laps to go. But the gap between them really surprised me. I thought that Valentini was going to be so much closer to Cope, but you know, as soon as Cope managed to get rid of that damage, his pace just absolutely electrified. There's up front Matthias Bear, so it's the fastest sector 3, so he's responding to Herbenauer's fastest fastest lap attempt on the lap before, but Bear absolutely in control at the moment. And you have to say, barring any major mistakes or any major dramas, Bear is looking in a pretty decent position for this race win.
Yeah, Matthias Bear has been here and been thereabouts. The odd mistake, I think it was a spin last time out that cost him some positions when he was looking really good, and he's had the pace, just not the results. And Ferrari is a car which is an all-round car, so produces on most circuits we go to, but this Interlagos circuit really suited him. Christophe Herbenau has closed the gap to just under 2 seconds. It's just stretched out down this straight, and we'll see whether anybody heads for the pits. It is a little bit confusing for us. We don't know until that pit wall just comes up. There's Stuart Winness in the background crossing the line. Now he has his teammate behind him in Kieran Smart, who's in the pro category, so there might be a few team orders there, with Smart's travelling about 0.2 of a second quicker than Winness on the last time round, but there's no point in playing silly games because Smart is on for a podium. And Tom McKell in 5th place on one of his best runs of the season so far, I would say. He's been unlucky at times, a bit mithered with bad qualifying positions relative to other pro drivers, but this has been a good drive by Mikel to move forward into 5th place. As we now see Lang go to the inside of Gill will just let him go down into turn number 4, and Lang, who still hasn't pitted yet, so that damage not affecting Lang as much as some would expect, is moving now up into the top 9.
Is indeed, yeah, fairly clean move into turns number 4. What I noticed is when we were having a quick look at Winness, is that his teammate behind him, Smart, did actually have quite a substantial amount of damage to the front end of his car. So watch after the pit stops, because I'm assuming that Kieran will come in and he'll use his fast repair to obviously fix up all of that damage. And, you know, maybe that pace delta between Winness and Smart might extend a little bit, and we might see a battle for the final spot on the podium. Or, as you were saying, David, maybe it'll be a little bit more of a team orders than just letting him pass. Of course, Kieran was our pole sitter, so he's, you know, clearly got the 1 lap pace around here, as you can see now. The damage to the front end of that BMW, and that's really going to be hampering the handling and the straight line speed of the car. Well, actually,
I was just going to say, at least the team orders would be at the end of the season and not 6 races in. Hey, Red Bull. Anyway, just to mention, Tom Cope Thomas Cope just passed our very own Andy Thompson, who's doing a good job, fifth in class at the moment. But Thomas Cope at 1:33.03, that repair job has done a treat, and now we might see the champion of champions drives.
Yeah, we might do indeed. Actually, at the top of the field, it's just caught my eye that Herbenauer is really caught up onto the back of Burr. Burr had an absolutely awful lap the last time around, a second slower than his quickest lap. So, yeah, it seems as we see Andy Thompson, our very own Andy Thompson, in the pit. So he's decided to take his pit stop here and now, and Bingham up to 17th place. So Bingham's actually done quite well even after that spin. So his Thompson had some form of incident out there, I'm wondering, because I don't think Thompson was that far down. I'm not quite sure. As we look at this battle for the lead, and this lap again, Herbenauer just able to catch a few tenths, and he's tantalizingly close to that slipstream window. And then that's when Matthias is going to have to start thinking about throwing some defensive shapes and thinking about how much does he want this race win. And Herbenauer certainly wants it, just by looking at the positioning of that car. But does that car have a little bit of damage on the front right as we have a look at it? And I can't quite tell, but it seems to be like the panel gap between the bonnet and the light is a little bit wider. David, I don't know if you can see that, but I think Herbenauer might be carrying just a little bit of damage.
Yeah, there may be a little bit there, maybe bump drafting or from the opening lap, but Herbenauer certainly driving around any damage he has in that car. But I've got to say I'm mega impressed with Matthias Beer this season. When I've seen him in pro category in previous seasons, he's been sort of midfield, top of midfield, and he's really stepped up the second half this year, shown his pace and really taken it to some class drivers in the likes of Cope and Herbenauer. And we're looking at 2 drivers out in front, 3 drivers out in front who haven't won this year. Actually, 4 drivers in the top 5 of the race who are in the pro category and haven't won a race this year. So we're looking at a very good chance of a new winner, because Cope and Valentini are down in 19th and 20th.
Yeah, certainly is indeed. Sorry, I wasn't quite paying attention to you there, David. I was distracted by the timing screen. I don't quite know when it happened, David, but Mouchon has been in the pits, and I'm not sure if he can make it to the end from wherever he managed to pit, as Burr actually sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:32.5. So responding very nicely to the pressure that Herbenauer was setting only a few laps ago. But Mouchon is actually the leader of the drivers who have stopped, as we see Wegenvetter and Hugenhout both in the pit lane now. So that might be all about to change.
Yeah, Mouchon was one of our pit lane starters at the start, so it would automatically pick up a stop. Herbenauer, our information from our producer very well worked out, Herbenauer dropping about 0.15 of a second from Juncal to the start-finish line, so there must be a little bit of damage there. But then we do have this high altitude. Maybe that's just suiting the Ferrari that little bit more, and that's where the pull up the straight, the Ferrari's just going, thank you, I don't need all this air, I'm going to push myself to the line, as Frisner is in the pits in the AM category. So that's a driver looking to try and claim second in the championship, not having the day he needs, with David Gill up in 8th overall and second in class. But that very colourful Ferrari is sitting there waiting to be serviced, or being serviced at this moment in time, as we now look at Hugenhout, who has Cope going to the inside of him. Hugenhout, Cope and Regenwetter seems to have been glued together throughout this race.
Yeah, they certainly have. Thomas Cope, after pitting for that damage, made it past Wegenvetter as he was exiting the pits, and now made it past Hugenhout. And Valentini, crucially, has still got these 2 Ferraris to clear in between him and his main championship rival. So it's certainly advantage Cope at the moment, and the disadvantage goes to Valentini, and he's now got to get past these Ferraris. As you're right, these Ferraris are super quick on the straights. You know, they're turbocharged, so you know we are at a very high altitude here at Interlagos. So the turbocharged cars are really coming into their own, and these Lamborghinis will struggle on the run down, as we see. Can this Ferrari of Hugenhout come back at Thomas Cope with that straight line speed advantage? And Cope is going to have to think about a defensive maneuver into turn number 1. Unfortunately, running Hugenhout now, the 121 car thinks better of it, brakes a little bit earlier than Cope does. So head through turns 1, 2, and the long left-hander of turn number 3. And Cope just has so much more grip in that Lamborghini, just able to extend the gap between the two on the exit. As there is Lucas Lang, the other driver to be damaged, and he's come out just behind Valentini. So Valentini is going to be, trying to get past Regenvetter, but Lang is going to be looming in his mirrors. It's certainly an interesting race to watch, and crazily, this is all over 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th, even 19th place. Although many drivers up ahead are yet to stop, but it's crazy that we've got drivers of this caliber fighting out for such lowly positions at the moment. We see Herbenauer there once again setting the pace a little bit, almost matching Matthias Baer, but once again not able to surpass Baer's lap time, so he is still looking good for this race lead. Is actually Matthias has to get past a little bit of traffic into turns number 4, but he does so very, very successfully, and that won't hurt you too bad. And of course, GT3 cars, many people that drive them will do sort of longer endurance races, and that's where you gain so much experience within, lapping traffic and understanding how the dynamics of traffic work. So it can really bring an advantage even into a sprint race like this. It's so crucial to have that understanding, as we've seen Hooper Merlil and Engelhardt also coming into the pit. So the pit stops are well and truly underway, as we are just about to tick to 37 minutes gone so far. Collishaw as well, I think, has also made his pit stop. So the AM driver who was leading has been into the pits, and that's why we see David Gill leading the AM category. As here we see a very lovely orange Ferrari, and he's just lapping away. Nobody in front of him, nobody behind him, but that's exactly what you want if you are on for an AM class win.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And there is Matthias Baer heading into pit lane. So, and as we've predicted, Christoph Herbenau goes for his extra lap.
How crucial is that going to be, as we see Kieran Smart with that damage coming into the pits as well, and there's a lonely cone in the middle of the pit lane, so somebody's taken the pit lane very adventurously. Stuart Winnett also in the pits, and so is McCall as well. So yeah, Herbenauer able to extend that extra lap, and is that going to allow him to do the overcut? Of course, he's on lower fuel, and as long as the tyres aren't too badly overheated, in theory he's got the quicker car, because all of these drivers, they're going to come out of the pits laden with about 60 odd litres of fuel, which is a huge weight penalty. And while Herbenauer is going around with like 5 or 6 litres, so there is going to be a pace difference. Can Herbenauer change the race narrative just by going a lap later? We'll have to find out. It seems like our timing towers are going a little bit crazy, as they are just going absolutely mad, as we see those two Ferraris that were in between Valentini and Cope, and they have both gotten past them now. So Wegenvetter and Hugenhout down to 10th and 11th. Lang has also gotten past, so this is race on, David, for the overall championship, as we see how the move was made.
Yeah, here goes Valentini to the inside, staying well away from the Pro-Am drivers, making sure that he's not going to be there. Lang just follows him through and makes sure that he's right on the back of Valentini, because remember, there's still a battle for second in the championship if something goes wrong for Valentini. We're just having a look. Actually, Matthias Baer, as Herbenau now pits, only got 1 lap longer, which I'm not surprised as we come towards the 40th minute of this race. But Matthias Baer, because of the amount of people who pitted, came out in second place. He only lost 1 position, and here he comes down the straight. So Herbenau is in pit lane. Baer full throttle down the straight, up the hill towards the Senna S, and he will Will he regain the lead? Herbino is on pit exit. There he is, and it looks like Beer will take the lead and possibly extend that lead by the looks of things, as it seems to stretch out to over 2 seconds as Herbino exits the pits. Kieran Smart moves up to third because Patrick Eimer from the AM category decides to pit. So I think we now have relatively everybody through the pits, and Matthias Beer actually had a slightly slower stop than Herbino. I think the best stop I can see on the timing screen is a 15.88 by Stuart Winness, who is really putting a good... Sorry, Tom McKell it was who did the 15.88. Stuart Winness just ahead of him in the race, but McKell just trying to have to watch his mirrors because he's got Cope and Valentini coming at him, setting low 33s, and Lang as well in that train. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly they can catch Tom McKell.
Yeah, certainly will be. Kieran Smart and Stuart Winness have switched around at some point. Not sure if that was before or after the pit stops, but our pole sitter is now in third place in the final podium place of this race. As we see Lucas Lang actually gaining quite a lot of pace at the moment, looming large in the rearview mirror of Valentini. And all the while these two are racing, it's just allowing Thomas Cope just to run off in the distance. The gap is almost 2 seconds as we see the very sort of glimpse of Thomas Cope's rear bumper there. As we have a look at Lucas Lang into the braking zone of Zheng Xiao, and is he a little bit, I think he needs to be a little bit closer if he wants to make the move on that Lamborghini down towards turn 1. Got a little bit wide on exit, and as predicted, Kieran Smart starting to set the timing towers alight a little bit. He does his personal best the last time by, so Kieran Smart, after repairing that damage, has regained his pace, but I think he's a little bit too far off the lead battle. But he'll be hoping that Beer and Herbenauer have a little bit of a fight, as that gap is down to 1.7 seconds as we ride on board with Lucas Lang in the slipstream of Tom Valentini. What's he going to do as we head down towards Sina del Lago? Is he going to think about a move? He'll brake vaguely at the same place. Nothing can be done under brakes, and Lucas Lang is going to have to look at that rear view, the rear view of that Lamborghini for at least another half a lap or so.
Yeah, I just looked further down the field as well. A great drive so far by Andy Thompson. I know he's our very own, but he's up in 5th in class, and he's only about 7 seconds off Tom Bingham. We know Tom had that spin earlier on, but a good drive here by Thompson, just pushing forward. And as we are talking about our own things to do with Apex Racing TV, we do have to say thank you to our sponsors for this season in terms of Virtual Racing School, where you can improve your on-track performances with 50 data packs, road and oval racing setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching, which can be paired up with our other sponsor, Apex Racing Academy, where you can get 29 data packs, setups, track guides, integrate it together, and weekly group coaching sessions, as well as much more. So that is 2 of our sponsors, and the final one is what you can see on your screen now. It's SDK Gaming, if I could get my words out, who can help you add this virtual HUD to your screen and show timing towers, relative boxes, mini maps, fuel calculators, help you stream to Twitch in the easiest way possible, and also broadcast your own leagues if you want to, and give yourself this professional look. So thank you to our sponsors who have been with us all through the season and continue to support us here on Apex Racing TV.
Certainly echo those sentiments. We were looking on board at Shinata, gone back to the Tom Valentini, Lucas Lang fight. There's certainly that Porsche so much more command at the moment over the front end of the Porsche. He's just able to turn in. The car obediently does it, and the Lamborghini looking a little bit understeery. Of course, the Lamborghini a rear-engined car, while the Porsche is more of a mid-engine car, so the Porsche has such incredible turn-in, but can get very lively on exit, as we see Matthias Beer setting the fastest lap of the race, but Herbenauer only a few thousandths of a second behind him, so this battle for the lead is well and truly not over, but Mateus just in the pound seat at the moment. Herbenauer is going to have to find every little ounce of pace that he can find, brake a little bit later at almost every point of the track, and you know, do a few Schumacher-esque qualifying laps if he wants to take the win, as he still has a little bit of damage there, David, to the front of his car. So he didn't take the fast repair at the pit stop. So obviously Christoph either, you know, sort of realizing that it wasn't too much damage or unaware of the damage, but is that gonna hurt him at his chances for the race win here?
I think Matthias Beer at the moment has it pretty much covered, whether he had repairs or not. I think Herbenauer is a very clever driver from what we've seen this season, and if he used his fast repair for that little bit of damage when he's still driving really well, and then he had an accident with a back marker or something, I think he'd be kicking himself. So he has closed the gap on this lap, though. I'm expecting to see Matthias Beer a bit slower on this lap as Hoop Kamil passes Eden Frisner for 21st position, but we'll stick with these leaders at the moment. And there is Beer taking a very tight line along the straight, not drifting out wide like most of them do, and it just seems to be working for him on the drag up to a straight. Herbenauer losing a couple of tenths there, but 1/10 of a second quicker on that lap, and we've got just under 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, kind of saw like Matthias Beer there was defending from fresh air. I don't think it was the case, otherwise he wouldn't be doing it. But yeah, not quite sure what he was saying, taking such a tight line, because I would have thought that would have been scrubbing off a little bit of speed, but clearly not. But you could just see from the gaps that Herbenauer is just a little bit deeper under brakes, is able to slow the car down, but on exit Matthias is just quicker in that Ferrari. Whether it's a car specific thing or more of a setup or driver style thing, we're unsure, but if these drivers get closer, you'll know that Herbenauer will be able to brake a little bit later, maybe try, you know, for a sort of a lick the stamp and send it move, but Bear will be quicker on the exit. Ooh, very interesting dynamics, but the gap is almost exactly the same as it was one lap ago. You see in the background, Kieran Smart been setting some pretty decent laps as well. He's just on his fastest lap of the race, albeit about a tenth slower than Herbenauer in second, but Kieran Smart certainly solidifying this third place so far. He's got his teammate behind him, so I don't think he'll be feeling too much challenge for that third place, but that Cope, Macau, Valentini Lang battle is it's sort of extending a little bit, isn't it, David? It's not getting as close as I think us as commentators would have liked. Cope is, let's have a look. So Cope actually slower on the last lap than the Ferrari you see on your screen. So Cope not able to get to have the pace that this Ferrari has at the moment. And it's looking like maybe this fight is just a little bit over, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I think in terms of Thomas Cope, he knows what he needs to do, and we did see him pit that little bit earlier than everybody else, so I wonder if he's just trying to save a bit of fuel, make sure he can get to the end. And he knows that Valentini and Lang are the only two who can beat him to his title. Smart is only a couple of places ahead, so as long as Thomas Cope comes home in a result that scores points, he pretty much has the title sealed, but keeping Valentini and Lang behind him just ultimately confirms it. And he's driven perfectly all year, and this is just a slightly defensive drive for Cope to have to put through. But the 64 Lamborghini is absolutely been on the top of the game second half of the season. And so I've got to say the same for Stuart Winness in fourth place. He's been driving brilliantly all season, but the second half has just been absolutely perfect for his Pro-Am chances of a title, and he's going to go. We've said it before that champions don't go out with a win. Well, Stuart Winness is the one champion here today who could go out with a win. I don't want to start commentator cursing him. I've got friends in commentary booths who have been very dangerous in 2022 with commentator curse, and I've spoke to him and rubbed shoulders with him, and I don't want it to be rubbed off on me.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. Winness doing a great job, but that all came from the start when he was so switched on and leapt to the front, gained 4 positions. So we see Daniel Merchon on the back, and this is Paul Collishaw. So it's going to be a fairly unorthodox move if you can make it past the car. This is heading up towards turns number 6 and 7. I think Paul was just a little bit aware of Merchon there, and sort of, you know, saw that he was attempting the move and he's trying to protect his race victory at the moment, so decided just to think better of it. Having said that, though, he's not in the lead at the moment. This is actually David Gill who's to the lead, and I thought that Gill was yet to pit, but no, David Gill has certainly has David Gill come into the pits? Yeah, he has. So yeah. David Gill is your current AM leader. So Collishaw, after being so far ahead in the early portions of this race, not in the lead at the moment, and Gill, Irma as well, currently first and second, with Collishaw almost 9 seconds deficit between Gill and himself. So yeah, big changes in the Anfield.
Yeah, David Gill managed to pull it back just before Collishaw pitted, and he got it down to about 3 or 4 seconds behind Collishaw. So while we saw Collishaw up with the pro category sort of gap, Gill was thereabouts, just keeping a watching brief. But Patrick Iman, no disrespect, has come from nowhere in this race to be running second, and he's only a second away from David Gill. So this fight is well and truly on, as Alex Fields there in the Mercedes just trying to make sure he doesn't get too much in the way of these leaders. But Patrick Iman, who we saw earlier in the year put in a dominant performance in one of the races for Pro-Am, but it just hasn't come together for him as a season as a whole. But the German would love to go out with the top 2, and especially a class victory, as we see him trying to close in on the Audi, which is going to lap Alex Fields down into turn number 1. The Mercedes just trying to get towards the end of this race now after that big accident we saw on the start-finish straight. But back at the front, Matthias Beer still leading by 1.4 seconds as we come into the final 9 minutes of this race, and Herbino just edging it. It's about half a tenth a lap, really, a tenth here, a tenth there, and he is starting to pull that towards Beer. Now, you do have to remember, these drivers are very used to stinting an hour on the tyres, as you see a little wiggle there for Matthias Beer. But has Herbino just protected his tyres that little bit better by sitting back behind Stuart Winness earlier in the race and not pushing hard out in front?
It's such a skill, the tyre management in the GT3s at the moment, and you're right. I mean, you know, these tyres can even do sort of 2, 3, even 4 hours. I've heard of drivers going on the same set of tyres, but it all matters about how you treat them in the first few laps of your stint. So, you know, let's say if Herbenauer just sort of treated them a little bit better, didn't take so much speed into the apexes, was a little bit, you know, sort of less aggressive on the throttle, it can pay dividends as we head sort of later on in the stint. So, yeah, you know, tyre management is such a big deal in these GT3s, which is why the racing is so amazing in these cars. As Herbenauer once again goes very, very wide at Ticino del Lago, and he will be picking up 1Xs for that, because that's way too wide to not be given a 1X at the very least. So Herbenauer there really pushing at the moment. But, you know, it goes the other way. You know, I was talking about how you really have to treat the tyres well in the opening sort of stages of your stint, but if you start overdriving them at any point in your stint, the tyre temperature just absolutely skyrockets and the grip just, you know, just falls off a cliff, and then it's this sort of perpetual cycle. Is actually Mateus there being stuck now behind a lapped car. I can't quite see the number, but that's the driver in second place. That's Fritzner there. So this could be Herbenauer's best opportunity. The lap car gets out of the way, but that's compromised Mateus all through the final sector of this race. But will the number 269 car get out of the way? Frantic flashing from the Lamborghini, but is Fritzner going to see that? Does he feel like he needs to get out of the way? Of course, there's no, in iRacing, there's no need to get out of the way. It's not like Formula One where, you know, as soon as you're waving you get the blue flag, you practically have to jump out of the way. You don't have to do that in multi-class racing, as the car finally moves out of the way on the outside of turn number 3, and that allows Herbenauer to catch up. But it does seem like Beer has just lost a little bit of time, and Herbenauer once again so tantalizingly close to that slipstream window.
Yeah, like I said before, both drivers, no victories between these two this year. They've got a 10-second lead over Kieran Smart, so it is, all being well, a clean fight between these, the German and the Belgian, the Ferrari and the Lamborghini. Beer versus Herbenau, and it is going to be a ding-dong match to the end of this race. We have 6 minutes to go, so we're probably looking rough roughly about 4 or 5 laps to go, so we've got plenty of time to enjoy this action. Just looking further back, Tom Cope is still 1.9 seconds ahead of Tom Valentini, who has slightly dropped Lucas Lang as well. So that battle is just sort of spreading out a little bit. The closest battle is actually between Roland Schartner, who has just got past Paul Collishaw for 14th overall, but that is not even a battle in class. So by the looks of things, Tom Bingham and Thomas Cope and Stuart Winness, the three leading the championship coming into this race, will be our provisional champions. We can't call them champions straight away because we don't know whether there'll be any appeals or that, any such like. Can't say there will be from what we've seen, but obviously we do have to be quite cautious with that. They're just trying to bring it to the end, and what champions do, they get the points they need.
Yeah, they certainly do. It's all about consistency. You know, you can be as fast as you like on a one-lap pace, or even, you know, in certain races, but if you don't continue just to consistently rack up those points, even if you're not, you know, winning every time, that's what counts at the end of the season. Herbenauer, as we look back towards the race, Herbenauer was within that second gap, at least for the last straight. Didn't seem to gain too much, though, in terms of the slipstream. The speeds looking roughly the same as they were when Herbenauer was outside of them, but now we just see Matthias Beer just a little bit under pressure for the first time, you'd have to say, in this race after getting past Stuart Winness all those laps ago. And now what can Christoph Herbenauer do as we head up towards Zheng Xiao, who's feeling a little bit braver on the brakes, who's feeling more adventurous on the outside, and they both look fairly conservative, actually, not taking too much of that apex curve, but nobody really running super close to the grass on exit. But crucially for this battle, we have two lapped cars up ahead. That's Hooper Merle and Andy Thompson, our very own Andy Thompson. So is that going to play a factor in this fight as we cross the line? Herbenauer for 2:10, quicker on the last lap than Matthias Beer, so this battle is going to go down to the line. Herbenauer now firmly within that second gap. The gap is now down to 0.7 of a second. Andy Thompson defending to the inside in the forefront of the picture, and this is going to get very exciting very quickly, David.
Yeah, Andy did say to us he wanted plenty of coverage today, and he's getting it, but let's hope he doesn't get too in the way of this battle, as Matthias Beer is now coming up. He's defended from Hoek Kamerl in front in the Audi, so not even a class battle there. Andy just having a bit of fun here at the end of the season. But here comes Matthias Beer. He's caught them up in the worst part of the sector. Hoek Kamerl being very kind to the leaders, letting both of them through this middle sector, as Matthias Beer still has the gap at half a second now. This gap is closing down. Herbenauer really piling the pressure on, kept his tyres in good shape towards the end of this race. Beer not really struggling with the tyres, but not got the pace to fight off the Lamborghini. Thompson will give him a little bit of a tow out to Juncal now, up over the top of the straight, and I expect to see Thompson pull to the right-hand side, driver's right, and try and let Matthias Beer through. Beer going through every ounce of slipstream he can. Thompson goes to the inside. Herbenauer letting Thompson know that he's coming as well. Has Thompson seen that? It doesn't look like it, and actually slots in between the two battling for the lead. Will Thompson dive to the outside now and let Herbenauer through? No, Thompson keeps his line, which he has every right to do, and there goes Herbenauer through. But Herbenauer has lost a couple of tenths of a second there. It's still side by side as they go down towards turn 4. The gap is back out to 0.9 of a second, so Herbenauer with a bit more work to do with only 1.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think that Herbenauer will be really upset with that. I'm not quite sure what Thompson could have done there. You know, Herbenauer wasn't close to making a move into turn 1, and that's why, you know, Thompson he didn't decide to sort of get out of the way. And yeah, you know, they're still within their own race, but you know, I know the frustration when you're catching, you know, the car ahead, especially, you know, for the lead of the race. You're so frustrated, you just want everybody just to disappear so you can focus on the battle. But Christoph Herbenauer, absolutely mega second sector, brought that gap all the way down to half a second again. Are we going to see a slipstream maneuver on the back, on the front straight even, as we head round during show? A little bit wide there for Matthias Burr, and that's going to allow Herbenau just to catch up a little bit more as we see the gap slowly decrease. Actually, no. And Matthias pulling out a little bit of a gap. Maybe that Ferrari horsepower, that Ferrari turbo power, making its difference known on the straight, because even with Herbenau in the slipstream, can't get anywhere close to Matthias Beer. Down towards turn 1 we go, and I think that would be the white flag. So this is the last lap of the race, and this is Herbenau's last opportunity to make a move as we head down towards Destino del Lago. This is Herbenau's best opportunity all race. Can he make it stick?
Herbenau dummies to the inside of turn 4, but Beer not defending, not thinking he has to defend, but Herbenau is there. Beer, you're going to have to go defensive now. There is no choice or you will lose this race win. And he does go defensive as they go up towards turn number 6. And they come through the bend. Will Beer run out wide? Herbenau looks for a cutback. Beer parks it on the apex. Beautifully done. The two keeping it very clean. Herbenau trying to go around the outside. He does go around the outside. Beer slides out wide. Herbenau takes the lead of this race. And Beer has spun. This is Herbenau. Beer has spun round on the grass on the exit of the corner, and he will try and get going before Kieran Smart comes round. Here comes Kieran Smart in the Track Scotland car, but Matthias Beer, who has driven the perfect race until the final half a lap, and now he's really got to struggle with them tyres to the end of the race. Can Kieran Smart steal second place off the heartbroken German? But here is the thing we have been expecting all year. Christoph Herbenau comes across the line and finally takes his first win of the season in the final round. Kieran Smart has got second off Matthias Beer according to our timing screen. Beer flashing his lights. Whether he's not happy or not, we'll try and get that replay of that pass a little bit later on. But here comes Stuart Winnett in the Pro-Am, takes victory and the championship, the Track Scotland driver. Very pleased with that. And a bit further back, here comes your pro driver champion. Thomas Cope does just enough ahead of Tom Valentini to take the title, provisionally of course, but we believe there's no reason for any appeals at the end of this race. And here comes David Gill, which I think this is a second win in a row in the AM category. So Gill comes across the line to take another win in the AM category and takes second in the championship, as we now look a bit further back, a lot further back, for our AM category winner in the McLaren. He chose the most difficult car to drive in the GT field. He dominated the season, even though there was a few mistakes, I think back to Barber Motorsport where he ended up in the pit wall. But Tom Bingham is going to bring the McLaren home to take a well-deserved championship in the AM category. And he takes 4th place here off the podium at Interlagos, but he won't mind because that is the championship done for the McLaren driver. And last across the line as they come across, but there is Thomas Cope burning the tyres in championship celebration.
Yeah, it certainly is. Congratulations to all of our race winners, race finishers, and of course our newly crowned champions, barring any form of protest or anything. But what a season Thomas Cope has had even, and there he goes. There he does the donuts and destroys those rear tyres, that gearbox. He doesn't need them anymore. That's the season done for him. Yeah, and what a champion stride from Thomas Cope. You know, had those issues, had that coming together with Valentini, although it wasn't Thomas Cope's fault in the slightest. But, you know, he came back, he kept it cool, he made positions up, finished 6th overall as we have a look at the race results now. But, you know, a superb drive from Thomas Cope, and actually superb drive from all of our champions today.
Yeah, some great drives in there, but Christoph Herbenau takes his first win of the season. We've all been expecting it from the Belgian, as he wins by 11 seconds, even though on the final lap he started it just 3 tenths behind Matthias Beer. Kieran Smart got the better of Matthias Beer on the final corner to take second ahead of the German. Stuart Winnett wins the Pro-Am class in 4th, Tom McKell 5th. Thomas Cope takes the Pro Championship in 6th from Tom Valentini in 7th, and Lucas Lang in 8th, finishing in exactly their championship positions. Christoph Wegenwetter comes 2nd in Pro-Am ahead of Rene Hugenhout. Perfect for the 2 front row drivers. struggled early on, but moved through to take a double podium for the low grip racing team. David Gill for Reckless Abandon takes a category win for the second time in a row, ahead of Patrick Eimer, who had a quiet race but a sensible race all through, ahead of Daniel Merchant, our first of our pit lane starters, getting through into fourth in class ahead of Roland Schartner. Paul Cowlishaw third for AM category, Tommy Muljord, Christian Engelhardt and James Hall rounding out the top 18. And here is the rest of your order. Tom Bingham, the AM category champion in 19th, and our very own Andy Thompson coming home 20th and 5th in class. A great result for Andy on the final day of the season. Arthur Hoopkamil probably wanted a little bit more from his Audi here today, down in 21st. Frisner 22nd. Colin Sampson, I think that's possibly his first finish for a couple of races, so that's 23rd for him in the year one racing car. Alex Fields 24th, Tim Spesser, Hendrik Lang, Adam Morrison and Mad Scher all retiring throughout the race. But we will now look towards our interview rating area. I've just looked at it and I'm not sure we're going to have enough time for everybody, because it seems like suddenly everybody wants to talk to us today. But the first person we will talk to is Thomas Cope, our pro champion. So, Thomas Cope, pro champion of a GT3 trophy. How does that sound?
It sounds quite amazing after the interesting race.
Yeah, do you want to talk us through that? Because obviously you weren't sort of on pole position, and then you had the reverse grid, which put Tom Valentini ahead of you anyway. And then it just didn't seem to go your way in the first quarter of it.
Yeah, well, I had starting behind Valentini was already a bit of a mental game. I knew he had a bit more pace on me during that race. Obviously, qualifying showed that he didn't want to start in front or start behind. I did watch him a little bit, and he's hung back a little bit. But yeah, then obviously the incident late with Valentini himself as well. I'm still not sure what happened on that incident. It was sort of blur at the moment.
Yeah, it was a little ironic that it was you, Tom, and Lucas all involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a blessing that it was those guys that were involved. But it's unfortunate it's come down to the last race. One of three of us could have won it, and all three of us were involved in the same incident.
Yeah, from our point of view, it looked like Tom just lost the back end. Maybe there might have been a touch net code, but we couldn't see anything from our end. So it looked like Tom just lost the back end, and then obviously you had nowhere to go. But you then suffered with a lack of pace really in the car. I said in commentary, take a picture of the timing screen, because it's the first time ever I could say Thomas Cope is one of the slowest on track due to the damage. And did you worry about whether you needed to pit earlier to replace the damage to get to the end of the race and not be able to make it on fuel, or did you know when you pitted you could definitely make it?
I definitely thought in the back of my mind it could be championship. Tom didn't carry as much damage from the incident. I had wheel damage. I had a lot of aero damage, so I was lacking on the straights. I mean, my pace was about a second or two off on a lap with the incident, and Tom was just gaining every lap. I think when we first looked at it after the incident, he was 17 seconds back, to the point when he came out of pits, he was 2 seconds behind me. But yeah, with the incident, we took it to the fuel stop, took it till the fuel window opened up exactly, and just in time, exactly as the fuel window opened up, I came into the pits, took my fast repair, got a clean car, and got out and pushed out as much pace as I could, and obviously it was just enough to stay ahead of Valentini in the end.
And towards the end of the race, it looked like you might try and catch Tom McKell in front, but were you just thinking, I know I'm fighting Tom and Lucas for a championship, they're behind me, I don't need to move forward anymore?
Yeah, I knew I had McKell, I had another position in the car, but I was just maintaining the gap to Valentini and gapping a little bit here and there. Obviously, Valentini was pushing the pace as well, so naturally we were catching up to, I think it was Tom McKell in the Ferrari. So towards the end of the race, we were quite close, but just enough out of him to stay ahead, and I didn't push too much pace because I didn't want to kill the car early on, and saved a bit of tyres for the end of the fight for the last couple of laps where I really pulled out a gap to Valentini.
And I've got to ask what everybody at home wants to know. I'm guessing you didn't go break your foot again.
No, I didn't. Maybe that's why the crash happened.
How is the foot now?
It's really good. It's fine now. It's all healed well, so it's back working 100%.
So you're now the pro champion. You've got it to bring home to yourself. Will we see you in the next season?
Yeah, I'm hoping to come back next year. I'm hoping to do a bit more with Apex. I enjoyed doing the Porsche Cup series I did before this as well. So I'm hoping to come back and do a bit more throughout the Apex series and being on the Apex TV more as well.
That's great to hear, and congratulations on your championship again. If there's anybody you want to give a shout out to before you go.
Yeah, the whole Olympus Esports, Charles Michel, the team owner, Tom Binlos, team owner as well. I'll say, come bring them along with us. Daniel Merchant, who's been in the series as well, really helped practicing. The rest of the Olympus Esports and Team Oblivion Racing, helping me out throughout the whole season to help me get this victory. Big shout out to Major's Garage, supplying some really amazing setups that I've really used for that setup and help me win this. Also, Track Race UK do some amazing rigs. Any more information you want to find out on us, go to our website, olympusesports.com, or feel free to message me privately wherever you can find me on iRacing and find out more information about Olympus Esports and Oblivion E-Racing with what we do.
So that's everybody said thank you to, and congratulations again to you for the championship, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you try and retain it next season.
Thank you very much, guys.
So that was Thomas Cope, our pro champion. And Sebastian, who is it that you want to speak to next?
I think we should have a chat to Pro-Am champion, or at least provisional champion, Stuart Wyness. Good evening, Stuart. I mean, congratulations on the provisional championship. What a start you had.
Yeah, evening guys. Yeah, that was a bit of a good jump at the start. I was like, oh, I'll just go, and they kind of opened the door for me, so I'll stick it in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said in commentary that you were really switched on in knee that once the green flag flew that you could make those positions. So, I mean, great start from you. Did you feel like you could have won today, or did you feel like realistically fourth was your best position?
No, I think fourth was most realistic. I was trying to hold them up. Well, I wasn't trying to hold them up. I was just trying to hold it behind to let Kieran get closer to them. But Matthias and Hoover and I were just a bit too quick for me.
Yeah, I mean, and we were saying, were there team orders, or is there just sort of like mutual respect between you and Kieran, of course, being on the same team? Were you always going to let him through, or did it just seem like the best course of action?
Yeah, I was always going to let him through. He's a lot quicker than me, and I thought if I could try and stick with him, he might pull me closer to them, but it didn't really happen. I kind of disappeared from him.
No, he was absolutely rapid today, but you were too. I mean, when you go into these races that have a reverse grid, were you dreading it, or were you excited, to have a reverse grid race?
Tonight I was actually quite happy because I was looking in qualifying and I was like, oh, sixth, so that'll be fourth. Oh, that'll be or fifth. I was like, oh, I'll be fine. That'll be quite nice. And also Kieran got pole and he was like, I'm 10th. And I was like, yep, you've got some work to do.
Yeah, I mean, yes, certainly is. So, yeah, I mean, of course, you went in as the points leader. Were you nervous because of that, or were you just sort of like going to take it as it came and whatever happened, you would have accepted?
Bit of both. I was quite nervous coming into it, and I was like, right, okay, I'll just try and stick with it. And then once the race started, I was kind of calmed down and just kept watching the delta, see who was behind me.
Yeah, I think that tends to be the way, isn't it? You sort of psych yourself up in your mind, and then when you get to the race, you're like, oh, actually, it's not so bad. But certainly from my experience, like being nervous affects my driving and affects my whole run up to the race, and I don't feel like I do a good enough job. Do you feel like you did a good enough job even with the pressure of the championship?
To begin with, I wasn't even looking at the championship, and just the last couple of rounds have kind of gone my way with results. So coming into it, I was like, yeah, I'll just try and go with it.
Well, you certainly did that. Congratulations. Congratulations on not only the race victory in your class, but the championship as well. And before we let you go and celebrate with your team, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out at all to?
Just to you guys for doing such a great stream, and then obviously the fans of Track Scotland and our team Track Scotland, they're always behind us. So
Well, thank you very much, and go and enjoy. Is there any champagne on order at all, or is that not been arranged yet by your team manager?
no, it's just juice. It's a school night, so I can't really drink tonight. So
So at the weekend there'll be some champagne then.
it could be. I never know.
I reckon it's the best excuse to have some. So yeah, why not?
Yep. Cheers.
Thank you very much, and have a great weekend.
Yeah. See you later, guys. Thank you.
And I think, David, who are we gonna have a little bit of a chat to next? Who are we thinking?
Yeah, I think we'll have a chat to our AM category champion. I don't think we're going to get time to talk to our AM category winner here today, but our AM category champion, Tom Bingham. Tom, that wasn't the easiest race in the world to try and claim a championship in.
Oh god, what a mess! What a mess! The McLaren decided, I know, I'll wait till the last race and then I'll just kill you on every corner. What a nightmare! So the track temperature seemed to almost jump or spike at the beginning of the race. It felt like, because all practice, it didn't have a single spin, really good pace, and then lap one, it just let go, and then I think I just started to overdrive it as well, and then obviously you can't do that in the McLaren, and I just decided to, show everybody the side of my car as much as I could. So it happens.
Yeah, we saw you rejoin on the final corner at one point, and there's an Audi. From our camera view, it looked pretty close, and Andy was on the outside as well. Was it as close as it looked when you rejoined from that spin?
Yeah, I felt it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't good. I've got triple screens, so I saw him in the right hand side, and it made me jump a little bit. So I tried to rejoin as carefully as possible, but when there's that many people on the track at that time, what can you do? Crawl on gently, I suppose.
Obviously, I'm champion this year. Are you looking at coming back for the next season?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I've had quite a bit of luck in Apex now. So I've won the AM GT trophy twice now, and I won the Mazdas as well. So in AM, so that means that I'll be bumped up to Pro Am, and it'll be really fun to battle with those guys, and just try and keep improving and take it from there. But yeah, definitely going to come back for next season and see what I can do.
And will you be picking the McLaren again?
Yeah, why not?
Somebody's got to.
Someone's got to be stupid enough to do it. So either the McLaren or the Mercedes, but we'll find out. Probably the McLaren again. It's it is a nightmare, but when it's on point, it goes really well. So it's yeah.
Well, congratulations on your championship. And before you go, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
So I want to say a massive thank you to everybody at Apex for putting on the league and hosting it. You guys do a fantastic job, and the commentary team is always excellent, and have a really good laugh watching all the streams and stuff back. So thank you for that. Big thanks to all the Performance Link guys, everybody else that was racing in the championship, all really nice bunch of lads. My wife for putting up my sim racing, and anybody else that knows me.
So, Tom Bingham, thank you, and congratulations again.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
And we're running a touch over, but we can't leave the season without having one more word with our very own Andy Thompson. Andy, it's not been the easiest of seasons, but you've come home with a very good 5th place here at Interlagos.
Yeah, hi guys. No, it's been a really good season. I just came in for a bit of a change from the commentary box, and thought I'd see what it was like on the car. Really enjoyed the season, really good tracks, and it's been really good in the Discord and the chat and in the interview waiting area there. All the guys are really complimentary of each other, and it's been a really good season and a lot of close bonding, I think. But overall, really enjoyed it.
What you'll be very glad to hear is we've got lots of shots of 2 McLarens together. So I know how much you love the shape of McLaren. So you've got twice to look at. But speaking of this race here today, you had decent pace all the way through.
Yeah, I felt okay. The car felt a little bit sketchy. It was a little bit slippery. I'm pretty sure Tom said that as well. It was a hard car to sort of control. But I felt, I just wanted to keep it consistent. I was doing sort of between 134.7 and 135.1 pretty much the whole race on the lap time. So I just wanted to be sort of consistent, and I knew it'd come. But it was a nice little fight there at the end with Arthur. I thought he was going to get me, but I just managed to hold him off. So enjoyed that one.
Yeah, Sebastian, you got anything to ask Andy?
Not really. I mean, I was just going to sort of quickly pick up on your race. You were having a little bit of a chat before the race got started, and you were saying, your main championship was Stefan Andersson, and he had a pit lane start, but didn't, in fact, sort of take the start at all. So once you knew that, did you feel sort of like more relaxed, or have you only just sort of realised it?
In fact, I only just realised, and I had a look. I've just uploaded all the points, and I've noticed I'm dead. I've got the same amount of points as Stefan, so one place more. So if Tom had let me beat him, then I would have clearly beat Stefan. That's twice he's done Tom, so I'll be having a word with him afterwards. That's twice he's done to me in a GT trophy.
I suppose you could have turned around to him and said, well, you didn't really need your 4th place, did you?
Exactly. I did, but Tom just he wants the podiums, and I think he was a little bit gutted on that. But no, it was good racing. I really enjoyed it. Considering I made that horrendous mistake at Daytona where I tried to reverse down the pit lane, and disqualify me. Apart from that, howler that I'll admit to, it's been a good season actually. I've enjoyed it.
And finally, do you think we'll see you next season back in a car?
Well, it's either I'll be on the box or in the car. It's one of the two. So we'll see what comes. But yeah, I might get back in. I really enjoyed it. Are we going to see you back in the car more to the point?
I do better at talking about it. I mean, I'll be honest. You've either got me as a loose cannon in the commentary box or the McLaren as a loose cannon on the track, really, haven't you?
Oh, I don't know what you're over there. Lovely car, beautiful car.
We've got to give you a chance. Is anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, to you guys. I know all the hard work that goes in behind the scenes, and obviously the great commentary that you guys. Obviously to Jamie, who's the unsung hero with all the camera angles. So big shout out to you, Jamie, in the comms box, and to David and Seb for standing in this one, and for DJ for doing the rest of the season, as well as Performance Link and all the guys there. So thank you very much, guys, and let's see where we are next season.
Thank you very much for joining us, Andy. And so we can quickly wrap up. Any final thoughts on today's race and the championship, Sebastian?
Just absolutely, it was absolutely great race. It went down to the wire. Of course, I think Mateus is going to be a little bit sore after that one. I think it was fairly harsh what happened, but no, it's absolutely great race. Congratulations to all the champions. I think they've driven an absolutely great race, and yeah, just thank you for everybody that's racing, and thank you very much for the opportunity to commentate. It's been absolutely so much fun, and yeah, Phil, sorry that DJ couldn't be here to enjoy the final race of the season, because it was certainly an absolutely amazing one.
I think the race here at Interlagos pretty much summed up every race we've had this season. Different people at the front, instants happening when we don't expect them, and just as the race goes quiet, something will happen. But that is it for our season of the GT3 trophy this time round. The details are already starting to come out about the next season, so if you want to be interested in racing in this series, please head over to the Apex Racing website, Apex Racing League website, and register your interest there. All the details are there. You can join with the calendar, the types of cars you can have. There's plenty of other series out there as well, so you can find out about everything to do with Apex Racing Leagues at the Apex Racing League website. But for tonight, that is our champions crowned, our race winners awarded, and another season is over. My name has been David Whitehouse. I've been joined by Sebastian Boscher Williams in the commentary box here tonight. We've got to say thank you to DJ Clark, who has done the rest of the season in the commentary box, and to Jamie Fluke, who has been doing our producing and also a little bit of technical information to us every now and again, which has been great to have. And you can see Jamie racing with the rest of the Apex Racing team over on our usual channels on YouTube and on Twitch. So for tonight, thank you very much, and we'll do again next season.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.